Hey, good morning. Good morning. How's
Hey,
it going?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Miss Monica Love?
Oh, just absolutely fabulous. Is there any other way to be?
No, that's the only way. You live at the level of which you speak, so you got to be careful what comes out of here every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's have a conversation, Rosalind, because you and I were we were talking, and you were mentioning some things about being a doula. I don't
Mhm.
know much about the space,
Yeah.
so I was just totally intrigued, and I think it's a conversation that the larger audience should
Yeah.
have. I'm a real estate broker, financial professional, so that's my lane. But
That's yeah.
yeah.
So I'll dive in a little bit. And so, of course, being in I call it birth worker space, or, people commonly know the term today as a doula. I'll take it a little bit of the historical perspective because it really came from midwives, right? And within our communities, we've always had midwives in our communities, to be honest with you. And I believe I shared this with people before. The history of midwives right here in America, they were actually highly treasured. Even as we came out of slavery or during slavery, they were highly treasured. The reason why they were highly treasured was because they were the ones that took care of the assets of
Mm-hmm.
people. You know what I mean? Like America made its riches. Let's be clear, people. Made its riches off of the backs of Black and brown people that look like me and you, Monica. Okay. And so, unfortunately, oftentimes folk will try to forget about it, but you can't forget about that.
Right.
And so, within those plantations, oftentimes that midwife was the one who was the healer, is the one who knew how to make sure if somebody wasn't feeling well, they knew what to pull off the tree to make a tea. They knew how to make a salve if somebody hurt their leg or broke their leg, or all the things. But they were also key in that they were the ones that helped to deliver those babies.
Mm-hmm.
Black, brown, white, it didn't matter. They were the ones that were there to really walk that family, that mom, through that birth experience, right? She was the one that carried the wisdom. She was the one that taught the rest of the community so that those babies could be birthed and they could be healthy. And if there was something going on or something wrong, she would be right there to help that family usher that baby into the earth. And so, yep, that's the history.
And
Hmm.
so that's the history. So here we are today,
Yeah.
and we still have doulas, although they are not, or midwives, doulas, same thing, but they're not quite as respected or honored or received, I don't think,
Yeah.
as they should be. But it's because of a lack of knowledge. Lack of
Mhm.
knowledge causes people to perish in any situation or
For sure.
subject.
Yeah. Mhm.
So my question is, what would be the reason? Like, we got all these doctors that have gone to school for years. What would
Mhm.
be the reason that a woman would want to have, especially in the Black and brown community?
Yeah.
Why would a woman want to have a doula? Why would she want that or need that?
Yep. Yep. So I'm going to go back because doulas and midwives are not the same thing, right? Some people
Okay.
think they are. Now, midwives are traditionally trained. There's different kinds of midwives now. You have your certified nurse midwives, you have your traditional midwives, you have your professional midwives. The thing is that many of them are trained, some of them are not trained necessarily in a school system to be able to get the degree to be able to work in a hospital, because some midwives only work within the clinical setting or in the hospitals. Some midwives are trained, or traditional midwives, we call them granny midwives. Many of them, they can work in the hospital setting, but they don't necessarily show up as the midwife. They show up as a support person. But most
Okay.
people know who they are. But many of them also help with home births, right? If a woman decides to have birth at home, there's also women that decide to give birth in birth centers, and usually those are certified nurse midwives as well that work in there. So the key is, one, understanding what you want for your birth, right? Because you can plan it out, right? Monica and I are financial professionals, and so we help people plan their finances out. But you can do the same thing with your birth. You can do the same thing with purchasing a house or a car, you should have a plan in place so that you get the best outcome for what it is that you want for you and your family. Now, I'm going to go back again. It's always a historical piece of this. Originally, once the OBGYN practice came into being, and again, it was not by people that look like you and me, okay? They came into being, and there were these regulations and all these kinds of things that they start putting in place. Well, a lot of those things were put in place to discredit the midwives.
Okay.
And so they were saying, oh, you guys, women are dying and people are using unsanitary practices and all these kind of things. A lot of it, most of it was a lie to discredit them so that people would shift how they gave birth.
Mm-hmm.
And now people, more so went to the hospital. But again, we weren't allowed, as Black women, we're not even allowed to have birth in the hospital. So it's like,
Right.
okay, y'all shifting this. But unfortunately today, and I'm in the state of Georgia, outcomes for Black and brown women just don't fare well. There's not very good outcomes because you still have this system that's in place based on some of those forefathers that came and created this new OBGYN practice. They needed to cut on people, and technically birth is a natural event. So if birth is a natural event and you're doing what you're supposed to do, i.e. you're eating right, you're keeping that stress level down, you're exercising, you're doing things to take care of your body, right? There's not a whole lot of issues you should have. However, a lot of people aren't starting on the positive. So if you already start with issues and complications, you know what? I believe that every woman should be allowed to choose her birth exactly the way that she wants to have it and have who she wants to be there. Again, whether you want to go to the hospital, that's your thing. Whether you decide to be at home, that's your thing, or a birth center. But I also believe that all women should have support, i.e., a doula or birth doula at your birth or midwife.
Okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned that there was a difference between a doula and a midwife.
Mhm.
Can you give us a nutshell what the difference is? You told us what a midwife is.
Yep.
So what is a doula?
And so midwife actually means wit wife or wit woman, right? And so again, a midwife is usually going to be the one to birth that baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be there to catch the baby,
Sure.
cut the cord, to do all the things like that. Now, a doula is more so the support person. So a
Okay.
doula will come beside a mom during that pregnancy, wherever you hire them, because they is a cash pay for the most part. Though some insurances cover, it's not, it's becoming more common for insurances to pay, but for the most part, it is cash pay. And so what you would do, i.e., because I am a what they call a certified doula. I call myself a birth coach. So I've been doing this work for over 30 years now. So I coach, families and moms. I even coach institutions on how to receive doulas and how to receive families and make sure that there's an environment that is supportive and welcoming so that family can be stress-free as that baby is birthed. But that doula is the support person. So you can hire doulas during, while you're pregnant. You can hire doulas to just support you during the birth process. You can also hire doulas to support you afterwards, after your postpartum. And you can hire what they call a full spectrum doula that does the prenatal, does the birth, and does the postpartum. So as a doula, you really get a chance to know the family. You get to understand some of their needs. You get to know some of their favorite foods and quirks and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are in that birth setting, no matter where it is, doulas get to advocate for that family because, as I mentioned, Monica, if you're in the middle of pushing a baby out, you can advocate for yourself.
Right.
It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. Even the partner, right? Or if you have your mom there, or the grandmother there, it's hard because you're emotionally connected to that woman. You want to make sure that she has a good birth outcome. You want to make sure that baby that is part of your legacy come. You're stressed. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to have that person, that doula, that third party there to understand the lingo. How do you speak, to the healthcare providers? Because guess what? Technically, we come in and give them a break. If you
Mm-hmm.
come in with the right energy and the right attitude, as I do when I go in, I introduce myself. I'm connected to the staff because who knows? I could be at the hospital for the next 24 hours, and I
Right.
might need something from them as well. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so there's a way to come in, to be accommodating, to have a conversation with those people and respect the space that you're
Mm.
serving in so that you can show up for the family and really have the best birth experience.
Rosalind, that is so powerful when you think about the fact that you are emotionally charged when you are in a situation of delivering a child, a baby. I've only ever been in a delivery room besides my own when I had my child, but I was actually asleep because I had to be have a surgery. So that's a whole different story. But
Right,
my
right.
point is, I've only ever been in a birthing room one time
Mhm.
with this young lady, and it blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
I was like, her mother said to me, she said, I thought you were going to pass out. It's a whole thing. And you do want to have someone there who's not so emotionally charged,
Yeah.
someone who knows what's happening. And I had never seen the baby come out of a birth canal before. And seeing all of that, I was flat. I was like, oh my, it was, and it gives you a whole different level of respect.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here I'm gonna put a little twist on it.
Hmm.
You know that I'm a minister. So
Yeah.
when you are that birthing space, I've been in rooms when people were spiritually born.
Hmm.
In other words, when they've been endued with power from on high and they're
Hmm.
filled with the spirit, and they there is a whole element in the atmosphere that
Hmm.
is different. Like
Yeah.
there is an element of life that's
Hmm.
in the atmosphere, and I'm talking spiritually, right?
Yeah.
So to experience that naturally when a baby is coming in, it was the same, but it was different. It was wow. And
Yeah.
so when you started talking about the mom is charged emotionally, the dad, the mom, the grandparents, they're all emotional, and to have that doula, that third party there in the room who can advocate for that woman, because sometimes people who look like us are not listened to.
Yeah.
Their needs are not cared for in the same
Mhm.
way. Therefore, you have a high rate of birth defective or deficiencies or whatever it's called. I don't know the technical term,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's like a real thing.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, it could be complicated. You know what I mean? There, there is a myth that says, oh, well, many moms that have, not so good birth outcomes, have other issues, chronic diseases, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes. And, while, yes, sometimes that is the situation, but don't they deserve a good birth experience as well?
Sure.
Like, are
Yeah.
we just saying, okay, because they had these issues already, they don't deserve to be treated well? And the person, like, come on, you know what I mean? That's not what it should be. But again, as we mentioned, around the birth work, we also talked about, whether there are doulas that do this work full time. They do, but it's tough to do birth work full time. It is, case by case. Plus, me, when I service a family, I really want to be 100% in it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have my caseload so heavy where I'm running here, I'm running there, I'm running there. I can't be present for my family and really support
Right.
them for what they need if I got 10 clients at a time. You know what I mean? That's a lot,
Yeah.
and besides, you don't know how long a birth is going to go anyway. And so you want to make sure that you designate time so that you can really show up and show out for your family, because you do want to have a positive, outcome for that birth experience. But again, the reason why I mentioned earlier about, birth workers really can do well for themselves, right? But,
Mm.
what they'll end up doing, like any consultant, if you are somebody who is a business consultant, sometimes that money, that cash flow doesn't come in like maybe a 9 to 5. You might not be getting paid every 2 weeks or every month, but you can put a plan in place so that when that money does come in, as we talk about, Monica, making sure that it has an assignment. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so, just like a consultant and an entrepreneur, you have to be very strategic, on how you set up, that those funds that come in. You, as an independent, want to also make sure that you have things set aside, like your retirement accounts and your life insurance policies and all the things. And so, but yeah,
Yeah.
we deal with the same thing anyone else does, as birth workers. But again, many birth workers are just kind of out there solo dolo, and they don't really know who to reach out to. And so I
Right.
am her, Monica is her. We are
Right.
this.
But that's why we needed to have the
Yeah,
conversation, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so it's when we have the information, I am a firm believer that is our responsibility to provide that information to other people who may not know. And so thank you for that information today regarding birth coaching and what that looks like from a historical perspective, even until today, what
yeah,
that looks like and why it is good to have a third party, an objective third party in the room in the form of a doula. So thank you so much for that information today.
for sure, for sure. And if you want to get more information, if you want to connect with some other doulas, I have an amazing support network that I connect to other people. We just want some more information, right? Make sure that you reach out to me. My actual email address is rhillwell@gmail.com, and then I'll put some additional information in the link below. But again, if you are someone who is interested, are you a birth worker, are you a doula, are you a midwife, are you in that field and you want to co-create with other people that are really wanting to make impact for families for here and
Yeah.
the future, reach out. I would love to have that conversation with you. I would love to connect you with a network of other birth workers that are on that same path.
Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you. Thanks for the conversation. Have a great one, everybody.
All right. Take care now.
Bye bye.